Patrick Ray is based out of Lawrence, which leads nicely into our next story.
About the cult classic Carnival of Souls, soon to be released on Blu-ray as part of the Criterion Collection.
It's hard to believe, but this uber low-budget horror movie, directed by Lawrence's Herc Harvey back in 1962, is still finding fans today.
Though for some of us, the joys of the carnival never really went away.
It was great because we had a full house and they laughed in all the right spots and were horrified in the right spots, so it worked very well.
Herc Harvey may be the only director with a movie in the Criterion Collection known for holding court in a donut shop. It was a common occurrence in Lawrence, Kansas back in the 70s and 80s. I know because I lived there back then and on occasion was even cast in one of the Centron educational films Herc directed over the decades. Perhaps you remember my work in Shoplifters, The Criminal Horde. I remember when I discovered that Herc and his screenwriting buddy John Clifford made a feature film back in 1962 called Carnival of Souls.
When the movie was shot on location in Lawrence and Salt Lake City on a low budget of about $30,000.
Over the years, it started gaining momentum as one of those late-night TV horror classics, so naturally, I had to do a story about it for the place I worked back then, Sunflower Cablevision.
He symbolizes whatever you want him to symbolize. It can be evil, it can be death.
Over here it played in drive-in theaters on a double feature bill, but over in Europe it played in art houses as a new wave movie.
Believe it or not, that piece actually helped me get hired here. So the 80s are rolling along, the movie's buzz just keeps building, till 1989, when, with 4 minutes restored, Carnival of Souls is released on home video, VHS. Time for an update, don't you think? Which included a look at some of the places in Lawrence where key scenes had been filmed and how much they'd changed or hadn't.
One thing that hasn't changed much is the Kansas River. Right around here is where they filmed the car being pulled out of the water.
And of course, how a movie with zero special effects budget was still having such an effect.
All you can do is just out-top someone with what kind of a creature comes out of the stomach or how a head is cut off or this sort of thing. So they get so involved in the special effects of the film that the storyline is no longer important. And with John and us working together, I think his stories are important enough to make that the main thing rather than the special effects in the film.
I thought we had an unusual story, and I often read now that, the ending is predictable and all that, but I'm not so sure it was 30 years ago. And I thought people should have liked it more than they did.
Then in 1996, the carousel came crashing down. Herc Harvey passed away at the age of only 71. In his honor, we showed Carnival on the giant screen at the Englewood Theater, and it looked fantastic. Could have been the end of the story, but remember, this is the movie that just won't die. 4 years later, the Criterion Collection came calling. The folks in New York whose mission it is to find the greatest movies from around the world and release them in the highest quality possible, at the time, DVD. So, how does a movie that cost all of $32,000 end up standing alongside Fellini and Hitchcock, Herzog and Kubrick? Well, let's ask Susan Rostage in the Criterion Collection Library.
Just because it's low budget and it was, played in a drive-in maybe and shown on television doesn't make it not worthwhile. And it does have a lot of fans, from filmmakers, to scholars. Even Herc Harvey himself said he wanted to make the film with, the look of a Bergman and the feel of a Cocteau. He really had an eye for things, and I think it fits in well next to all the Bergmans and the Cocteau films that we have.
Saltaire was a locale. I mean, maybe that's the key. He found the right spot and everything happens from there. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, Saltaire and other locations in Kansas, like the Reuter Organ Factory, and, Candice Hilligoss is really so unusual and really pretty great in this movie and completely ethereal and bizarre. And I think just her face goes a long way in keeping people engaged in the film.
And of course, Herc. I mean, maybe if he actually had the money to hire an actor, it wouldn't have had quite the impact that the man does.
I think he really liked to be involved in every part of the process, and he was, in a lot of those Centron commercials, selling Centron services. I think he really wanted to be involved, and I think it's great because I think he's really, really good.
You've worked now twice on this, I guess.
Twice. I mean, I'll work again a third time if there's some other format that comes out. I mean, it really is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I hope that, you know, my love of the film extends into, you know, what we've produced here, and that other fans of the film will really appreciate this new edition.
When Carnival of Souls is released on Blu-ray in July, it will feature a new cover, and among the many bonus extras, a new video essay by film critic David Cairns. What it will not feature, though, is what you're about to see, courtesy of Rare Visions and Roadside Revelations. A few years back, knowing that we'd be passing the Great Salt Lake in our crowded van, and knowing that Don the camera guy had once purchased a pair of green loafers from Herc at a yard sale, we decided to stop and pay TV Weasel homage to our favorite hometown director.
These were his rumba shoes, he said. Saw the shoes and I said, Herc, why are you selling these shoes? And of course, the answer was obvious. He had already sold a suit.
May you do the dance macabre, Carnival director Herc Harvey.
Happy dancing, Herc. This wave's for you.